Yeah.
So we can start? Yeah, sure. Okay. So, what's your name?
My name is Sister Maire O'Nolan. O'Nolan.
O'Nolan. And how long have you been in Kenya and in Africa?
I've been in Kenya, in Africa for 65 years. I came here in 1963, the beginning of the independence year.
In Kenya?
Yeah, I came in January, and it came as a result of, I think we knew that there was, we were two provinces, Eastern Africa and South Africa, and then they said, no, we have to join because we haven't got enough people, you know what I mean, in a sense to just say you're staying there, right? And then the provincial was talking to me at that time, and she kept talking about Kenya, and I said, well, I think I ended up by saying, well, do you want somebody to go to Kenya? And she said, yes, I do. So she said, well, she said, how do you feel about it? Well, I said, you know, maybe it's time I moved on now out of South Africa. And
what year did you go to South Africa?
I went to South Africa in 1950 by boat. 2 weeks on a boat.
Okay. So can we go back a little bit? You went to school where?
In Beaufort.
In Dublin.
In Dublin, in Rathfarnham, you know, it's opposite the Abbey, opposite Rathfarnham. Mm-hmm.
You're from where in Dublin?
I'm from Terranure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what year did you enter the novitiate?
I entered the novitiate in 1950. Mm-hmm.
And then you went to South Africa when?
And I went to South Africa in, what did I say, January 63.
63, so South Africa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you came to Kenya?
And I came to Kenya. Well, that's when I came to Kenya, sorry, 63. I entered in 52 to South Africa, went by boat to South Africa.
And you went to the novitiate then when?
And I went in South Africa.
Oh, the novitiate was in South Africa?
Well, there was a novitiate there, but I had left a novitiate of 20 and came to find that there was one other novice and myself in South Africa. So it was quite a change.
So from the time you entered in Loreto Abbey to the time you went to South Africa, how many years was that?
I went in 52 to South Africa, so I was 2 years in, yeah. I did 2 years of the novitiate.
And can you remember the boat trip out where you went? How you went to Liverpool? Or?
How we travelled, as it were. Well, I didn't get off the boat. We stopped the boat somewhere near Madeira, and people could go, but being a novice, I didn't go.
And the boat left from Liverpool? Or?
And the boat left, no, we crossed over on the mail boat, and then we went down by train to the south, Southampton, and then we got on the boat, the Cape Town Castle. I can remember the name of it, right? And off we set.
And that boat went all the way to South Africa?
Went all the way to South Africa. Mm-hmm.
Where were you in South Africa then?
In South Africa we landed in Cape Town, but I think we stayed a few days there, and then I came up by train to Pretoria, because that's where the novitiate was. Mm-hmm.
And was there a school there as well?
There was a school there, and I had a sister who was already ahead of me there.
A blood sister?
Yeah, blood sister. Mm-hmm.
How many were you in your family?
We were 9. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when you finished the novitiate, you started teaching? Or?
I went to do the studies. I went to train as a teacher, because I hadn't done that, right? So I went back, not in Pretoria, no, down in the Cape. What was the name of the place? We lived in Sea Point, that was our community, and we went out each day. Now can I remember the name of the place? It'll come back maybe later. We went out by bus each morning and then back in the afternoon, right? And
before I forget, can I ask you how old you are?
85.
Impressive. So that was South Africa, and then after your teacher training?
After my teacher training, I came to Kenya.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you never really taught in South Africa?
I didn't teach in South Africa, no. And I had to learn Afrikaans. I had to learn Afrikaans to do the studies, right? And that was tough, but I managed.
And then when you came to Kenya, it was 1963.
63.
This was before independence, or
Before, it was the January of the year.
independence year?
Independence was not until December.
And when you came to Kenya, did you come to Musangari?
I came to Missionary because this is where the novitiate was, yeah.
And were you teaching then?
Was I teaching? Well, being a novice, I'm not too sure. I can't. I was possibly. I'm just trying to situate where I was. I was in. No, that was still in South Africa. Sorry. Yes, I did. I came to teach.
And what classes were you? Primary or
I
secondary?
was primary.
And can you more or less remember how long you were teaching in Musangari? Or?
I was in South Africa. I was teaching in a school, and there was a very big class of beginners. And the very first day that I was to go in, didn't an inspectress turn up? And there were 72 children in the classroom. And she walked in and she said, "Impossible to teach such a number." But I had to try. and so like these memories sort of stay with me, because I said, "Oh, is this the end? Am I going out?" But it was these are the memories, and they're good memories, you know.
And can you remember how long you stayed then in Musangari?
I stayed. Let me see. Well, yes, I haven't gone elsewhere. You know, I stayed from then on here in this province. Yeah.
And were you teaching all subjects in primary, or?
I was, because as a primary teacher you taught everything, and sort of you could go from one class up to another class, right? And yeah.
And when you came, were there any of the early sisters who had come to Kenya?
Oh yes, there were a lot of them. There were a lot of them, and of course they gave a great welcome to somebody that was now beginning, sort of, and yes, there were a lot of them. They're all over there now in the cemetery.
Were any of the first 8 who started Musangari, were they there?
The first?
8, Sister Borgia, for example?
No, I didn't. She was already gone to God. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Can you remember any of the names of them? Even one or two of them?
Borgia.
Or any of those that were?
There was an old lady who was very deaf, very deaf. And you'd go in to see her, and she had a pad. You could write to her, and she'd see me going for the pad. She'd, no, you talk to me now. Talk to me. So I'd have to shout. and she was Mary of the Sacred Heart, and she had been in India, and she came from the Indian mission over here. So we had that was a guess, because she was very old. I think she was 90 at that stage.
And can you remember that transition from to independence? Are any memories of that?
I remember that year very well. I do, because it was my first year, so everything was new, right, in that sense. And there was more freedom up here than there was in South Africa. Like we could, I remember. There were some ordinations, and actually was it a brother? The brother of the First Lady, Mother Kenyatta, was a priest, and he was ordained, I think the day after the celebrations, and we were at that ordination, and I think it was held in now either Limuru or Kiambu. And I can remember the length of the ceremony and the singing of the ceremony, all in a language that I did not know. But it was, so these were kind of highlights at that time, right? And
Musangari must have been very much outside of Nairobi at that time, was it? The outskirts?
Well, it was, and Nairobi was a tiny little place, really. because I remember for the independence, they had the city was decorated, and so at night, and there were beautiful lights. So we drove in to see the city with the lights. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And about how many sisters were here at that time?
Many sisters were here then. Oh, there were more. Maybe more than, well, no, not, I shouldn't say more than there are at the moment, because we have young people now, right? And in the community, yeah, about, I'm trying to think of the table where we used to sit, you know what I mean, and there could have been 8 or 10.
Small number.
You know, of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then after Missionary, where did you go?
After Missionary, where did I go to now? Let me see, where have I got, right?
In your family, were there any other vocations?
A brother, a priest, but then he laicized, and now he's married. They're happily married. Mm-hmm.
Is he a diocesan priest?
Mm-hmm.
Diocesan?
Carmelite. He was at school in Terranure College. Mm-hmm. And so I think they were very sad when he did that, but it's... Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Can you tell me a bit about your sister in South Africa?
My sister in South Africa, she was very gifted. She really was very gifted.
Her name was?
And Veronica. and so she went 1948. She went to South Africa in 48, also by boat, and I think she was seasick the whole way. But I wasn't, thank God. I think I was a better traveller than she was, right? Let me get a little water. And thank you.
And she started a teacher training camp?
She did. Mm-hmm.
Did you say that?
She was teaching first. You know, she did her studies and she was teaching, and that was, she was in Pretoria, and I was in another part of Pretoria. When I finished my novitiate, I went out to Hillcrest, right, which was just in the suburbs, and so we saw one another quite a bit. But then when I went to, where did I go? When I went 352. No, when I went to Kenya, yes, we were separated.
She started a teacher training.
She did a teacher. It was first of all she did night classes, because again they couldn't. I think they couldn't.
The black children.
Yeah, I think they had to have night classes, not during the day. Mm-hmm.
You say that it was like a school for.
Yes, yeah, mm-hmm. And it was, where was it now? It was in. I forgot to bring up these names. It was outside of Cape Town, because you had to go out to what we call the black area or the coloured area, right? And so like it had those difficulties, that it was night classes, and but when I went down and stayed with her, it was good. Because I got to know her a bit more. She was the third born, and I was the seventh born. Mm-hmm. So it filled in some of the gaps there.
After Eldoret, you went to Kitale?
After Eldoret, I went to the novitiate. I was a formator. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I had to do some studies for that, right? Be prepared for that, and so like a lot of our first Kenyans, not all of them, no, because Ephigenia and Malia, they had another novice directors, but then I came in, and so like a lot of them, I have gone through me. God help them.
How long were you there?
I was there a long time. I'm trying to think now where 52, you know. No, I was in the novitiate here, up here. And you see, I got the help in Mongaza actually, because Mongaza had come. I've forgotten when they started Mongaza. It's so like there were courses there, and the Jesuits I was able to do Ignatian spirituality, and because it's our spirituality. And
were you in Kitali at any stage?
Kitali, no. No. We have a school on the way to Kitali. Matunda.
Were you there?
I'm not missioned there, no. Just.
And then, so after the novitiate, you went to Mongaza?
Yes.
How long were you in Mongaza?
Mongaza until this year.
So 30 years.
Yeah.
And what sort of things were you doing in Mongaza?
In Mongaza, retreat direction.
Individual retreat?
Individual retreat, yeah. And we had 30-day retreats.
For nuns and for priests?
For nuns and priests, and for lay people, if there were, because now a lot are coming, right? And then ongoing spiritual direction. So like people would say, I want to now come back keep this going, you know what I mean? And so I do a little bit of that here now still, but not much.
And religious came from all over the country?
They did, and they come from outside. They come from Uganda even, because they didn't have, I think, the facilities there that we had here, in that way.
Were you living in Mongaza?
I was living in Mongaza.
For 30 years?
Yeah, well, we had a community very close, Mary Ward Centre. So I'd go back there at night.
So just during the day?
During the day.
And any special remembrances of Mongaza over the years?
Ah, yes. Don't know, did you know Father Cecil McGarry?
As a student in school,
Is that right? He was there, and he helped me. He helped me really to do what I was asked to do there. I used to go to him when I was, I need you. What do I do with this one? And yes, and he died there.
He's buried there, is he?
Yes, yeah.
Did he start Mongaza?
He did. I
think he also started Hekimau.
He did. The theologus, yeah, he did. And that's where I first met him. He was there, and we were doing courses, because he began courses for us, you know, for people who would be doing spirituality. And so, like, he did a lot for it, for all the Jesuits there, really, because he was the dean in Hekima. And working day and night, it's no wonder he died. Yeah.
And if you had your life to live over again, would you do the same things?
I would. I would.
Any moment in your whole life that is a happier moment?
I suppose when I was with the younger children, I was very happy, because they were so free and so open, and they'd tell you everything. Daddy said this yesterday, and then Mommy would do that. You get the news for the day, and they'd write their news for the day. These little ones, you know, and but they were always full of energy and wanting to do something. Yeah.
And that was in all the places?
It really was, yeah.
It didn't matter whether they were, what colour they were?
No, because I didn't mention, I was in the Catholic parochial school. That was tough. That was tough. The one beside the cathedral.
Here?
Yes, beside the, what is it? It's not called a cathedral now, what is it?
Family Basilica.
Yeah, Basilica. And I was there, and the conditions in the school were terrible. It was smelling. It was rotting. and I ended up getting TB there because of the conditions, right? And but I came through it, right? And but it was difficult because it was kind of seen at one time by the I think by the parish priest that I didn't want to be there. But I was trying to lift up the school because it was literally filthy. And sanitation, not there, you know. And
This was in the 60s?
Yeah, it was. That was in the 50s, yeah.
So
I'd forgotten to put that in there.
It wasn't a Loreto school, it was a parochial school.
It was a parochial school, and the parish priest was very protective of it, right? But the teachers, you see, found the conditions terrible. And one particular day, I will never forget it, I didn't realise they had gone over to see him. And the next thing I get a message, and he's calling me over. And I went over to find the staff all there. They had obviously got their classes going on something. And he let them go at that stage. And then he let out at me. And I just stood, and I said, because I knew I was going to break down, because I wasn't prepared for it, you know what I mean? So I just walked out at one stage. So like they were painful. But then the bishop called the provincial who was down in South Africa. She had gone back down to South Africa. It was east and south together. And she said to me, "What were you doing?" I said, "I was doing what you told me to do. I was trying to get better conditions for the school." And so I got more than that. And so I think we went up to see we went up to see the cardinal, because he was the cardinal now. And we had to make an appointment. So again, I have that image of a big room, and he's in one corner and I'm in the other corner. And my provincial was with me, and she was sitting up somewhere there. And he was asking me about it, and he said, I've forgotten what he said, something, a little misunderstanding. And quite soon after that I was hospitalized. And because it had taken a lot out of me. So he comes to see me in the hospital, and he stood by the bed, and he said, he said, things like this happen, but you know, they'll pass by and all will be well. So I stayed there. I stayed there quite a number of years. And then one of our other sisters came in and took it over. But then they began to build, because as I say, it was just insanitary. It was terrible, really. And there's a lovely school there now.
And did you ever know Wangari Maathai?
Wangari Maathai, yes. We have her photo. Where is it? Yes. There she is, over there.
You met her personally?
I did.
Do you have any memories?
Because, well, I didn't know her when she was young, at school, kind of, or that, because she was in Limuru. But she came to a function that we had, and she was the guest of honour. She was, yeah.
She went to school in Limuru?
She went to school in Limuru.
4 years?
The 4 years, yeah.
And was she a brilliant pupil, or well known, or did she stand out?
She's very well known, yes.
But when she was a student, was she a brilliant student, or well?
I think she must have been. I wasn't there, you see, because that was now secondary, and secondary boarding. And but I wouldn't have come across her on a one-to-one, I think. Yeah.
It was more later in life that you.
Yeah.
Would you say she is the proudest achievement of Loreto in Kenya, would you think?
I would say so.
Everybody knows her, no?
Yeah. sadly she died early, right?
And when you were teaching in all these places, would you have a break, holiday or something?
Well, yes, you'd get the school holiday. And in those days we used to, funny enough, because like we were talking about it the other day, we always would get some time down in Mombasa. But that seems to have disappeared now.
You'd go for a few weeks to Mombasa?
Yes, well, you'd go for a few weeks and you'd get, you know, we could, there were houses that were run by the fathers. They were the Holy Ghost Spiritans, right? And then there were two or three houses that you could take, and you could do your own cooking and relax and swim and walk and right, and it was good. But that seems to be gone. But I think maybe it's because, you know, we were expatriates, right? So we weren't going home in the holiday. We were too far, right? And so now that we're not there in that sort of category, the younger people want to go to their own homes, right? And we get our home leave, but it's just once in 3 years.
And can you tell us a little bit your relationship with Jimmy O'D?
I was his godchild.
When you say Jimmy O'D was my uncle?
Yes, Jimmy O'D was my uncle, and also my godfather. And a little memory I have of him that when I was entering, we had a little farewell party at home, and he came, and he'd perform. He'd sort of entertain some of the people that would be there. But I remember opening the door to him, and he had taken one of our bicycles, and he was standing with the bicycle, sort of wanting to come into the house with the bicycle. he was, yeah.
Is he your mother's brother?
My mother's brother. Yeah.
And so your memory of him from a child was always a comedian?
A comedian, and she'd say, "He's very vulgar. Don't listen to him." I'm ashamed of him. Even when we'd go to the Gaiety, you know, to watch something, she said, No, you didn't hear that."
So you used to go to the Gaiety even then?
Yes, we used to go to maybe to the afternoon one, right?
In the 40s, maybe?
Yeah, it would have been.
And he was already performing?
And he was performing then.
And was Maureen Potter there as well?
Yes, she was, because she was much younger, of course.
Danny Cummins?
Yes, I think he came in as Uncle Jim was about to go out, I think, you know, but I think he took over from him.
I attended his funeral in Haddington Road. I went to his funeral.
Is that right? Yeah.
When I was a kid, because we know him so much. We would go to the Gaiety as kids.
Yeah.
And he was the main comedian.
Yeah.
And late in life, he married one of the other actresses there. Ursula.
He did, Ursula, and she had a brother who was also an actor, right? Ursula Doyle.
She was also part of the whole pantomime.
Yeah. She was, yeah.
And you had contact with him later in life when you left in South Africa? Kept up?
Well, yes, because I think when I was going to South Africa, yes, he did. No, he sent me he said, "I want to send you something. What do you want?" And we just had a new chapel, and I said, we haven't got a statue of Saint Joseph. And he sent a statue of Saint Joseph.
All the way from Dublin?
All the way, by boat.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to
one time when I was back in Ireland, right, I wasn't so well, and the Superior General, she was away, and I think when I came back she sent for me, and she asked me how I was, and I told her what was happening, right, and she said to me, if I'd anybody here this year from South Africa, I'd send you with them. That was early on, before I went to South Africa, right, and you'd get your health there.
And when you were coming the first time to South Africa, did you travel alone? Or?
No, we were a group. There were a group of 4 sisters returning from a holiday, and we were with them. And so
they were very experienced.
Yeah, it was.
How long did it take you to get from
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And you travelled okay?
Yes, I travelled okay. I didn't have any seasickness. I mean, now and again, the boat would be, you'd be sitting at your table, you know, and they'd have the edges up around the table, and during the meal, the boat would go that way, and you'd see through the porthole all water. You were like as if you were under the sea, and then it would go, and you'd see all the sky. So those memories stay with you for a while, you know.
And when you transferred from South Africa to Kenya, did you notice a lot of differences in Kenya?
There was a different atmosphere. There was a greater freedom here, and I think it was possibly because of the apartheid, you know, in South Africa.
And when did you start to have local Kenyan children in the schools?
In the school.
You transitioned from white to...
We had, oh yes, we had. And well, I was in the school in Eldoret early on, right? And they were all Europeans, settlers, farmers, children. And so there were boarders, so there was a need for a boarding school, right? Because they'd be too far away coming and going. And so they were Europeans. Then we got 1 or 2 applied Kenyans, right? And I can still remember the name of the first one, Nancy, and she it must have been very hard for her because she was the only one until some more could apply, right? Then I remember this day a parent coming, and he had, I think, three daughters, and he was coming from Molo, and so he said, "Do you have any other Kenyans in the school?" Well, I said, "Yes, we have Nancy." and so his girls came, and then gradually they came.
This man from Molo was Kenyan?
He was a Kenyan. He was a farmer. Yeah.
So the transition happened over time and smoothly?
It did, you see, after independence, you know, after that, the declaration of independence, I think, you know, people said, okay, this is it, because people who wanted to leave left the country. You know, some of the people, the farmers from Eldoret, they packed up and decided to go elsewhere. Maybe, I think some of them went off to New Zealand, or, you know, went much further.
So the ones that stayed were very open to change?
They were.
So you didn't have any trouble in this?
We didn't have trouble. No, we didn't. Yeah.
And by that time, the name of the Loreto was well established, I suppose, as a good school.
Well, it was because they had, I don't know when they actually opened Eldoret. I haven't got that date in my head, right?
Well, the name was built up at the school.
Yeah. And you see, at that time, it got a lot of boarders from Uganda, because we were the first sort of stop in Kenya from the train, you know, for the train. Because remember, we'd go in the morning early to collect them from the train.
The train must have been very important in those days.
Oh, it was.
So all your travelling was by train?
By train.
The roads were...
Well, we had matatus. They came in then at that stage. And yes, so there were matatus. But it was, well, the train journey was more comfortable.
And so going from Nairobi to Eldoret was always by train?
Yeah, and well, that was like if the children were coming back to school, we travelled with them. Some of us made the journey with them. And then we had them from Uganda coming to us.
So you must have to do quite a bit of travelling with the children. Right?
Yeah, we did.
That's been quite a headache.
Yeah. We had quite a number of sisters, and some of them loved the journey on the train. You know what I mean? It was something different, yeah. And you see, Eldoret, you'd leave Eldoret at night and go to Uganda.
You do by night?
Yes, by night. And sleep.
Were there bunks in there?
There were bunks. same as there are today on the one going to Mombasa. You know what I mean?
Great. Well, thank you very much. We've covered a lot.
Have you covered it?
Yes, absolutely. Okay.